We are live with Toronto Stevie Live, political desk breaking news. Everyone, this has been the talk of the town in Canada. Don't know if it's the talk in the United States, but in Canada, it's been all over the media, radio, television, social media. Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, instructs Canadian negotiators to walk away from the negotiating table because the trade deal with the United States was a bad trade deal, and he was not about to agree to the last minute terms that the Americans apparently wanted. And so that deal is off. And so, what happens next could have an effect on tens of thousands of Canadian workers, and it could have an effect on the economies of both Canada and the United States. I was originally going to just do a Toronto Stevie Live based on um, a tweet I had made and a response I got from AM 640's Brad Smith. Brad, I'm looking at you. Um, because he had. I'm surprised at the actual length of this tweet that he came back with me. But basically, he said, "Man, we're in a backwards world. Steve, it's not that Trump's job to make sure Canada is okay. Yes, I know that. Um, or to fix Canada's bad policies. Yes, I know that too. It's Canada's job to negotiate from reality. Yes, they need to be very pragmatic. They need to realize Donald Trump, they're dealing with Donald Trump, unfortunately, and he's minions. Everybody should be well aware of that, including myself there, Brad. Um, the real problem is that too many people were sold the idea that we had leverage, that we could somehow dismantle or pressure the United States economy. We don't. Roughly three-quarters of our exports still go south. We waited too long and the bill is coming due. Yeah, um, um, we sell 70 to 75% of our exports to the United States. Um, but, starting when Donald Trump came into office in January of last year, the obvious response was Carney's. Carney made the right response. He immediately, when he became prime minister and faced with the problem, immediately established trade deals with our allies all over the world to lessen the dependence that Canada has on the United States. And in his press briefing today, he mentioned that they could double that in the coming soon, double that, and lessen Canada's dependence on the United States even further, maybe even less than 70%. So, yes, I've known all throughout my life that the United States enjoys a competitive and comparative advantage over Canada, that in no way, shape, or form does Canada have leverage over the United States, and that in this situation, Canada is the David to the United States Goliath. Everybody should know that. That is not a secret by any means. Continuing on, um, businesses are closing. Just last week, another BC pulp mill is idling 400 jobs. People are leaving at a record 126.40. You'd have to explain that, Brad. I'm kind of lost on that. But our exports of softwood lumber, um, like I said, if the United States doesn't want to buy it, I'm pretty certain there are other countries more than willing to pick up the slack. Canadians and permanent residents emigrated in 2025, the highest number since Statistics Canada started tracking in the 1950s, with another 30,000 in the first quarter 2026 alone. And household debt is crushing debt to disposable income sits at about 180%, while 53% of Canadians say they struggle to meet financial commitments, and roughly a third are borrowing just to cover regular expenses. Yeah, even I'm got my share of household debt. Not too outrageous, but nonetheless. Um, um, are you well aware there, Brad, that uh, Canadians are having fewer kids today than they used to? We're no longer seeing households of five, six, seven, eight, nine kids. Some Canadians maybe only have one or two. Some are having none at all. So, if we are to have a tax base, if we are to have a future, we need immigration. There's just no getting around that. Um, and yes, household debt is a problem. It really has been a problem um, for decades, but it really accelerated with the pandemic in 2020. I saw that myself personally when I was going to the store and doing all the shopping, watching prices skyrocket, and they haven't come down since. So yeah, I'm well aware that I'm well aware of the struggles. Um, these problems didn't start with the tariffs; they were already baked in by policies that long predated them. Uh, stagnating productivity, collapsing business investment, and living standards that barely moved for a decade. Per person GDP rose only about 3% over the entire Trudeau years, inflation adjusted. That's the data. So there he threw out some statistics at me here. Uh, I'm uh, you're well aware of Justin's aversion to exploiting our critical minerals and our oil and natural gas and liquid natural gas. That might be the only area how, um, that I disagree with the Trudeau years. Had I been prime minister, I would have exploited uh, oil and liquid natural gas, signed those $1 trillion deals, and made a lot of money. Because the reality is, folks, if there's one thing Canada needs is revenue. Oil and liquid natural gas would provide lots of revenue. And Brad continues, I voted for Trudeau twice. I get the loyalty and the instinct to look for an external villain, but data doesn't care about feelings. Um, yeah, I know that hard numbers don't care about feelings, but when you set yourself up to be the villain in the scenario, the Goliath in the scenario, look away. It's hard. And believe me, folks, when you're Donald Trump, we don't have to go looking for him. If there's one thing this narcissistic guy likes to do is make himself noticed. Blaming Trump while refusing to look at our own long-running failures is short-sighted and ideologically driven. Well, well, there was no the only ideologically driven participant in this scenario is Donald Trump. He's the one who blew up trade deals or the trade relationships with many of the Americans' allies, including Canada. Um, he's the instigator. He's the one. He's the center of this universe. Um, so how can you not look away um, and blame anyone other than him? It's talk about backwards. That's backwards there, Brad. Anyway, experts who put the whole story on one man are not helping. That mentality is what risks pushing Canada into a deeper decline while the next generation is left holding the bag. And I had actually sent him this MSNBC clip, or now it's Microsoft Now, or MS Now, I think is what it's called, of Ali Velshi. He used to work for CTV. He's now in New York in the United States. I sent him this clip of Ali Velshi basically calling out Trump and putting the accountability and the blame where it belongs with Trump. So finally, and I got a response from him. Continues, and sending an MSNBC clip has proved is the worst possible choice for credibility. That's the same network and media class that spent years telling people the vaccine was safe and effective, in quotes, and would stop transmission. Here we are years later, and too many still treat those voices as authoritative. Um, Brad, did you even listen to your own station during during the pandemic, um, or maybe City TV News? I believe I believe whether it was um, former Mayor John Tory and the medical officer of health. I forget her name at the time she left the position. And also the doctor who had that daily segment on City TV News. And I can't remember his name either, even though he was on TV every single day. He was on the radio all the time. They went into great detail, basically telling us that the vaccine was an effective way to basically keep you alive. It was not going to stop transmission. Even if you got the vaccine, you could still get COVID 19. Um, there was never any doctor who ever told us, well, if you get this vaccine, you're not going to, you won't get COVID again. No doctor ever did that. Um, so I'm surprised. I'm surprised uh, that he would even say this. Oh, Dr. Davila, I think that was her name, Dr. Eileen Davila. Um, and I can't remember the other doctor's name, but continuing on, um, that's the main generational problem with the boomers on the left right now, in a nutshell. Trusting the same outlets that got the biggest things wrong instead of looking at the numbers ourselves. Like I said, um, when the doctors got on TV, they were saying the right things about the vaccines. There, fella. Um, um, I wish I knew that doctor's name. Anyway, he finishes. Yeah, no, Steve. Don't think I don't know. You're the one. You're the one who hung up on the call I was about to put on the air. That's fine. I think we can do the call. Uh, I do here instead. Yeah, I think maybe my wife was calling or was about to make dinner or have serve dinner or something. Sorry, I hung up on you there, but usually I try and get on when I couldn't. But anyway, thank you, Brad, for the responding to my tweet there. I really do appreciate it, by the way. And I do appreciate the time on Talk 640 as well. But having said that, Mark Carney himself did come back with so after this. I believe it was only 24 hours later, only a few days later, Mark Carney himself walked away from the trade deal. And I believe I'll leave my glasses to read this. Mark Carney issued a statement. He said, over the past 18 months, Canada's new government has focused on building our strength at home, diversifying our partnerships abroad, and striking a fair deal with the United States. Our objectives in our trade negotiations have been to um, preserve tariff-free access to the United States for the vast majority of Canadian businesses, provide greater stability to our trade relationships, significantly reduce U.S. tariffs on our key strategic industries so that Canadian businesses in these sectors would have the best access of any in the world, protect our small and medium sized businesses, the lifeblood of our economy, including by removing the imminent threat of new tariffs, and maintain our flexibility, our independence, and sovereignty as we keep building the Canada we want. We have recognized from the beginning that America has changed, that we will not return to our old relationships. Our government understands before many that America is altering all its trade relationships, putting tariffs on its closest allies, and charging for access to its vast market. We have walked in we have worked in that context to strike a fair deal that will provide the best access to the United States market and greater certainty to Canadian businesses and workers. Throughout, our goal has been to secure the best deal for Canadians, never a deal at any price or on a deadline. And then Prime Minister continues, in recent weeks, we have made progress toward improving Canada's position as having the best deal in the world with the US. However, that progress has not been enough to meet our objectives for Canadians. And as a result, this morning I have decided to suspend trade negotiations with the US and have directed Canada's negotiators to return to Ottawa. They have worked hard in good faith to defend the interests of Canada throughout these negotiations up until the last minute. However, last minute changes in the US proposed terms were unfair, uneconomic, and called into question the reliability of any deal. At midnight tonight, the U.S. intends to impose 50% tariffs on roughly $28 billion of Canadian goods. Canada will match the tariffs dollar for dollar to protect our workers and businesses. In the coming days, the government will introduce additional measures to support Canadian workers and businesses, building on the nearly $25 billion in support provided over the past 18 months. These actions complement Canada's core economic strategy from the day we have been focused on building our strength at home and diversifying our partnerships abroad. That strategy is working. We are advancing nearly $500 billion in major infrastructure projects. In parallel, we are unlocking new export markets for Canadian businesses. Our existing free trade deals already provide Canada with preferred access to 1.5 billion consumers, and we are on track to double that market access by the end of this year. Canadian economic growth is accelerating, and we are on course to have the second fastest growth in the G7 over the next 2 years. Our economy is creating jobs at 4 times the rate of the United States. Our exports to non-US markets are on track to double over the next decade. Foreign direct investment in Canada is at the highest level in 2 decades, running at twice the rate of our nearest G7 competitor. Canada now ranks as the most attractive country in the world for infrastructure investment. Canada is what the world wants, and we will not allow any nation to determine our future. We will set our own course to keep building Canada strong for all the the Right Honorable Mark Carney, Prime Minister of Canada, August 21st, 2026. So that was Mark Carney's response, and that was definitely the right move to make. I am actually confident that Carney did the right thing. If there's any threat to Canada's sovereignty, any threat to Canada's sovereignty is by itself a deal breaker. And if the United States was trying to introduce at the last minute, if the trade deal was ready to be signed, sealed, and delivered, but at the last minute the Americans come in and threaten Canada's sovereignty, then the obvious choice to make, the only choice to make, was to stand up, walk away from the trade deal, not sign it, and basically have to, yes, you have to accept the fact that the fallout from this is going to be immediate, it's going to be harsh. Yes, it could result in 50% tariffs on $28 billion worth of goods. The Canadian government may respond, dollar for dollar tariffs on American goods coming into the country may indeed increase our inflation, make things higher, make things cost even higher. But it's a move that has to be done. And for all these, the reaction that I've been reading online and listening to on television and the radio has been exactly what I thought the reaction would be from certain voices. Some people are saying, solely based on the fact that Mark Carney and the Canadians couldn't get a deal done, is like almost like proof that he's failed as a prime minister. When in reality, the actual opposite is true. I think had the prime minister and his negotiators agreed to a deal that gave away some of Canada's sovereignty to the United States for the sake of getting a deal done, that would have been a failure on the part of the prime minister. And so you have to come to the conclusion that he was right, that Mark Carney made the right decision. No matter what you think about him, no matter what you think about the Liberal Party of Canada, the bottom line is he made the right decision. And you've got to really be the David in this scenario. And no matter how big the Goliath is, you got to keep fighting. And one thing I have noticed is it certainly seems that people are saying now that this is a declaration of economic war by the Trump administration against Canada. And if that is the case, if they're going to be shots fired, economic shots fired, tariffs, counter tariffs, maybe even Canada bringing back the digital services tax on American social media companies, whatever the scenario is going to be, well, that's unfortunately a reality of the situation, and you've got to have your big boy pants on and accept the fact that this is going to carry on for quite some time. So, but I think if you take the temperature of Canadian citizens, yes, there are going to be some people maybe out west who are going to maybe they just, well, for lack of a better phrase, they just don't have the stones to accept the fact that we're in an economic war. But I think the vast majority of Canadians want Canada to stand up, want Canada to push back, fight back against the United States. And this was the tipping point. Friday night at midnight, Saturday morning was the tipping point. And we're in it. And once we're in it, we got to fight it. Who do we got here? Mr. Chobo. Anthony, sorry, Anthony, no wrestling today. This was entirely political. I don't know if you're watching the news, or leave a comment and ask me if this is resonating at all in the United States. What's going on between Canada and the United States politically? But other than that, thank you for at least leaving a comment. But this is Toronto Stevie Live. I will post this up on my Toronto Stevie Live political desk page, post it on Facebook, and share it with the world. If you have any questions or comments about what's going on in this country, please drop them in the line and I will answer them as best as I can. But keep your eyes open and keep your pocketbooks close at hand, because I have a feeling on both sides of the border there's going to be a lot of inflation resulting from this. This is Toronto Stevie Live. Thank you for watching, and I am out of here. Bye bye, everybody.